Welcome to the Jamodi podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. What's one thing you would do differently if you could start over in coaching?
Wow, that's a great question. I think I would be a little more of a sponge than I was. I came from playing for Coach Kruger, who was at Oklahoma for Lon Kruger, and so most of the stuff I did was what he had taught, and early on, and I didn't deviate from that. And I mean, I was way more about long, hard practices. And I mean, as I got older, I'm like, oh my God, was that dumb? I mean, what an idiot. I mean, these guys, I got them in there 3.5 hours. I mean, we're doing defensive drills for about 2 hours. I mean, it was just so, it's just me being just overcoaching the crap, just trying to get them to do it all in one day. And then we did it again the next day and the next day. And it was just, if I had to do it all over again, I mean, just because Tyler, my son, is coaching also, I said, look, man, you got to get it done in 2 hours. Really, don't try and go longer than 2 hours. These kids today, if they know you're just going 2 hours, they'll get it done. And you'll get a lot out of them in that time frame. If you have to go 3 hours, in my opinion, you've lost. You're wasting time. All you're doing is wearing them down, and you're not getting nothing. I believe hardly anything is getting done in the last 45 minutes. Now, that being said, I would say early in the year, you might have to go a little longer because you're talking a little bit more and you're trying to teach
more teaching.
More. Yeah, right. So it takes a little bit longer. But if I had to do it all over again, that was one thing. I could save 2 hours every day of my life for about 10 years of not going 3 or 3.5 hours practices and just cut it down to 2. I don't know. I was full of myself at that time and thought that was the way to go.
I appreciate that honesty, and there's probably some players from back in the day that if they listen to this, they would say, "Yeah, coach, it was too long. It was too long." But one thing you said, I love that idea of being a sponge. When you're first starting out, or really at any point. Like I feel like I'm still learning new things and ways to be more efficient and better. But the way that you had learned it doesn't necessarily mean it's the way that you have to do it. And I think a powerful moment comes from when you almost take ownership of the culture of your program, the style that you want to play and what you want to do. It's yours. It's not just what you learned, or not that there was anything wrong with that, but I think there's something powerful in that moment.
Sure. I'll tell you something else that I think it's important for especially high school guys. Now, when I was coming up in the 80s, you would go to clinics. You go to the ABC clinic, or you go to a Nike clinic or something. You hear guys speak, and that's fine. And I think it's good. But I think you'll learn more by going to practice. And nowadays, you're allowed to go to the college practices, and you really find out a little bit. Like they may give you a drill at the clinic, but they will show you the ins and outs of the drill when you go see them in person.
That's a good point.
And you go watch a practice in person. And for the last, 20 years probably of my high school coaching anyways, I would try and go to college practices in the fall and just try and go and see what they do, how they do it. And then most of them will listen to questions afterwards, and the assistants certainly will.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great way to learn because it's really pretty bare and right in front of you. I mean, all you got to do is pay attention and watch, and then if you have questions, you ask afterwards. And if you could just pick up one thing every time you listen to someone speak, or every time you went and watched someone practice something, you're going to have a wealth of knowledge by the time you get through coaching.
Who are some of your favorite practices to listen to or learn from?
Well, I got to tell you this. I mean, I would encourage everyone to go see Coach Jankovic coach, because I think he's very good at breaking stuff down and coach. I tell you, I saw Doc Sadler at Nebraska he's now the assistant at Nebraska now, but he was the head coach of Nebraska at the time. And he did a lot of, just a lot of fundamental stuff that, we as high school coaches think the college guys, that they don't do any of that fundamental stuff, but they do that fundamental stuff. And it's, it's a big part of it. If you're not doing it, then they probably don't know how to do it. So anyways, I saw Doc Sadler. Rick Barnes at Texas was good. I went and watched them practice one time. I'll tell you what, I saw Bobby Knight one time, and it's kind of interesting. It's interesting. It's just fun, just because you hear the stories and stuff. And he was, he was intense and he was good, but at that time he was kind of sitting back a little bit. And okay, so my all-time favorite would be Eddie Sutton, and Coach Sutton coached the way all old school guys would like to coach, and that is he coached every single element of the play. In other words, you had to set the screen at the right level, you had to at the right angle, you had to come off the screen at the right angle, you had to deliver the ball on time, and you had to open up, and everything had to be done exactly right, or we stopped and you went again. And it was just, nobody does it now because the guys are like, hey, come on, let's go, let us play. But Coach Sutton, that just sticks in my mind. I mean, the way he coached was so, it was just so detailed, and he did not let you move on until you got it. And I was always impressed with it.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.